Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. Good morning and welcome to the Elk Grove Unified School District Special Board Meeting. Live streaming of full in-person board meetings is available to the public by using the link located on the district's website. Today's meeting is being video recorded and will be available to the will be available on the district's YouTube channel. Some information about public comment. During special board meetings, the public may make public comment on items that are on the board agenda. Individuals with comments on general school district matters may address those at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. Requests to make public comment will be accepted for an item up until the board president introduces the item. Generally, members of the public will have 3 minutes to address the board. If there are 15 or more comments on a specific item, the board will reduce individual comment time to 1 minute each. If there are 30 or more comments on a specific item, the board will reduce individual comment times to 1 minute each. Individuals may not defer their time to another individual speaker to increase their total speaking time. Please be mindful that district students may be watching. You are encouraged to address the board and the public in a respectful manner such that all those observing, from children to adults, are made to feel welcome, safe, and valued. The board shall not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings. Persistent disruption by an individual or group shall be grounds for the board president to provide a warning and then to terminate the individual's privilege of addressing the board. And since I have not had the opportunity to do so in a while, I'm going to read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the Elk Grove Unified School District administrative facilities and schools occupy the unceded territory of the Miwok, the original people of the skies, land, and waters where we work and learn. The Miwok have cared for these lands since time immemorial. They continue to teach their traditional knowledge that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and the people who share it. May our daily lives and work, teaching, learning, leadership, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Miwok for their community and these lands. May we strive to acknowledge the past for the betterment of future generations. May we look to our tribal partners, the Wilton Rancheria, the descendants of the original peoples of this land, to assist with the successful education of our community. For the pledge, Ms. Ballerini.
All right, I'll do the pledge. Everybody please stand.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, I'll hand it off to the superintendent to provide an overview of the day.
Okay, thank you very much. Big day. We've been working on this one, I'd say 5 years, 3 years for sure, in the last 18 months, even more intently. So I'm looking forward to bringing you the recommendation with regards to the board priority recommendation, and look forward to discussion with the board. So that will be our main topic today. We do have some consent agenda items we want to make sure we get taken care of so we can move forward with business, and then we will roll into closed session. But budget priorities will be the main deal, so look forward to it.
Excellent, thank you very much. And then back to you for our budget priority recommendations and discussion.
I'm going to apologize a little bit ahead of time in that my voice is a little raspy, and because I've literally given this presentation, I think 9 times over the last several days, and they've been 45 minutes to an hour and a half each time, so depending on the audience. So, but we'll work our way through it. I'm good to go. Thanks, Mark. Okay, so here we are, and we did have a little bit of fun at Cabinet last week when I looked around the table and said, hey, who's going to give the presentation? And no one wanted to, so I'm doing it. So I'm actually proud to do it, so here we go. Turn it on. There we go. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we were clear about the large objectives for the entire process that we've been working through the pandemic, post-pandemic, and then moving forward. And so I want to make sure we're very clear that we focused on student need, and you'll see that throughout the presentation. The second bullet, we paid very close attention to program need in order to meet the needs of kids. and really pay close attention to related staffing levels that were, with the idea that what you'll see in this presentation isn't necessarily, there were 5 positions on the list originally, and we're gonna just put 5 on the new list. We actually thought through how we could thoughtfully move program forward based on staffing levels. I don't think this was necessarily our goal going into this, but I think we've gotten to a place where this has become possible. We have a recommendation to one-time fund a set of prioritized positions through June of 28. So it's not a one-year answer, but we do think this will prioritize programming and give everybody an opportunity to take a breath because the positions are funded through June of 28. Fourth bullet is critical. I want to say this with utmost respect for the people that have worked for us. We are making a recommendation for many positions to move forward. We are also not recommending some positions continue. And it is critical that we honor the people who have done great work over the past several years. With a recognition, we can't keep all of them moving forward, but by doing this presentation now, this will give us more time to be able to work with these individuals in identifying potential other opportunities to work within the district moving forward, and it's just a very important part of the process. Fourth bullet is there, or fifth bullet, there are some related goods and services that go along with the priority positions that we have, that we'll bring to you today. And we do have funding set aside to take care of the goods and services through June of 27. So I do want to make sure we make a clear distinction between people. We've identified 2 years of funding, and the goods and services, we've identified a single year of funding. And the last piece I'll say is, and this is a little bit of an odd duck, is I'm getting ready to make a transition, and the district's getting ready to make a transition. This is our best thinking and our best recommendation to the board with regards to, we think these are the baseline services that we need in our schools and we need in our district moving forward. And so there was a great deal of thought that went into the positions that we are recommending moving forward. So. Okay, so something that, let's see, I go on too many. There we go. So presentation for today. What I wanted to make sure is in this presentation is if somebody sat down for the first time today and just entered the conversation, that they would be able to logically follow where we've been, where we are, and where we're planning to go. And so that's why we set it up in this format. So we will go through a timeline of the last 18 months or so, work we've done. We spend a lot of time on what we've learned. We have spent a great deal of time listening, asking questions, and listening to feedback from students, staff, parents, and stakeholders in general. So a lot of work, and we'll make sure we share that with you. We do have 3 sets of recommendations that we'll bring forward to you. The first set of recommendations are positions that have been built into existing department funding and or specific grant or restricted funding sources. The board has always given managers and leaders the authority to use funding that has already been allocated to their area of the district, that if they see they have an opening within a position or a set of services that they're doing, and they see a more productive way to use those funds moving forward, the board has given our leaders the authority to make those decisions within their allocated budget sources. So in some cases, department leaders have been working for years in setting dollars aside to be ready for this day. And so there's not a lot of these positions, but there are several positions that will be folded into existing department budgets. We've also had some folks in entrepreneurial spirit that have gone out and identified grants that will help us address a couple of the positions. And then there are some very specific restricted funding sources, i.e. Title I, that carry over that will allow us to address some positions within those very restrictive boundaries of the use of those dollars. We are recommending a 2-year continuation of the positions through 2028, and so you'll see that list. And then also, as I said, we'll go through the goods and services. We're recommending continuing through 2027. Number 3 is probably the most challenging part of the presentation that I'll share today. And these are the positions that we are not recommending funding moving forward. In most cases, we have identified an alternative service delivery model that we believe will serve us well moving forward. In many cases, what you'll see is some positions within a given department or program area being funded and some not, with the idea that what we're going to have to do is some of the work we were doing was ramp up, and we were and post-pandemic, we were ramping up a set of services, and as we move forward, we need to be more in a maintenance mode, and that's what you'll see with regards to how we've set up some alternative delivery models. We will go through the funding sources, so you'll see we have the identified positions, the goods and services, and the dollars needed to do that, and we've identified a set of dollars, one-time funded, that will take care of all of these recommendations. And number 5, you've heard this from our labor partners and from other folks as well, and we wanted to make sure that we acknowledge this. And we're very lucky in Elk Grove Unified to be a growing district that is different than most districts across the state. But with growth, while everybody says it must be lucky to be growing, and I would agree, there's a lot of work that goes along with being a growing district. And besides building schools and everything that goes along with that, there's stress that is put on staffing positions across the district as we expand schools, have more kids to serve, have more staff to serve. So we want to make sure we acknowledge that we're aware of that. I've said this to the LCAP Collaborative Group on Thursday and to each member during our one-on-ones. I don't have any money attached to number 5 yet, but I do want to make sure that we acknowledge that it is a reality. Look forward to board feedback today, and then we will run through next steps. So these should look familiar. So these are the agreements, the 5 agreements that we've done throughout building budgets over the past, I think, 10 years. These have been in place. And I just want to highlight today, we are really focused on bullet 2, maintaining and evaluating what we've built over the past few years. We've done a deep dive into the programming, and it's central to what we are bringing forward as a recommendation today. This is a brief overview of the timeline going back to spring of last year. We could actually take this timeline and probably have done 5 pages and go all the way back to the original ESSER plan, the Learn and Recovery Block Grant version of the plan. But this is just the work we've done over the past several months, and just making sure that we are clear about how people could provide feedback in the process, and how we've interacted with many groups, and also provided the board multiple opportunities to engage in this work. What we've learned. First piece we'll pay some attention to is the perspective survey. And just a reminder, more than 40,000, nearly 50,000 people total participate in these surveys. We get information from students, parents, and staff, and the things that they've identified over the years continue to be very, very consistent. And so I have 3 slides. First one is the top 15 priorities according to our students, and you can see the top 15 things are the top 15 things. You may see a slight movement here, and 9 becomes a 10, and 8 becomes a 9, or something along those lines. But for the most part, the most important things are the most important things, and we've paid very close attention to this. Same thing with our parents. The most important things are the most important things, and I think this again is referenced in the recommendations that we'll be providing today. And staff. Again, same 15 things are the 15 things. Just a quick example, this is one of the formats in which we provided information to the board, we provided information to our labor partners, and we provided information to our community members. So this is a 2-page tool that front and back for each of the set of positions that were included in the Learning Recovery Block Grant plan. And just a quick reference, at the top of it, you'll see the costs associated, the position itself, how many FTE or full-time equivalent people are related to that. The left-hand side, you see the relevant LCAP needs areas. So the top 15 things are listed there, and we made sure we highlighted which of those areas were associated with a particular position. The upper right-hand corner, you'll see that's the ranking that the principals, LCAP Collaborative, and the combined score of those groups. So again, just a set of information that we've been using over the past few years to make sure people had information they needed, and we used this information as we came to our final recommendation. And this is the second page that has a little more information. This is a snapshot of the work we did last spring with asking our principals, the LCAP Collaborative, to rank the items based on their relative importance. And so we spent a lot of time looking at this information. And we didn't stop there. We went back out this fall and met with students, parents, the LCAP Collaborative, and principals again and said, let's make sure are the things that you've identified as most important still most important. And our academic intervention teachers, campus supervisors, counselors, and social workers came to remain near the top of the list when we did this additional feedback. Okay, so that's the setup. Any questions with regards to process up to this point and how we've come to making the recommendations? So the first set of recommendations are positions that department budgets have, and leaders have identified department budgets to be able to build these positions into existing funding and or some restricted dollars that we had available that we think the position lines up with very, very clearly. So I did go line by line with this with board members, and I'm going to go ahead and do that again this time just to make sure everybody's clear about our thought process regarding this work. So you'll see throughout this presentation a number of recommendations to continue supports for our homeless students. As we've shared with the board, our homeless population is one of our faster growing populations within our district, and the needs of these kids, regardless of any measure you use, the need is there. And so you'll see several positions where we have prioritized them. You'll see in the funding source, we use Title I carryover. We do have some dollars that are available out of the 24-25 budget available to do this. And our homeless population is largely concentrated in two areas of our district where Title I funding is an appropriate use of funding, and that's why we decided to use Title I carryover there. And I'll show you on the next slide, a different tactic with regards to how we would support foster youth, which is another important group, but how they're distributed across the district doesn't really allow us to use Title I in that particular situation. Curriculum specialists, there are two of them. They're specific to visual and performing arts. Prop 28 is our dollars that are designed specifically to support the arts, and we've done a significant expansion of the arts through our elementary schools, and also with Prop 28 at all of our secondary schools as well. And so these curriculum specialists, we believe, are critical to that work moving forward. We can also augment this with Title IV, which gives us some flexibility with regards to supporting curricular areas of need. So we think that's a good match. The equity program educator, this is one of the positions within the equity department. Sky River, the Wilton Ranch area, generously provides support to the district on an annual basis, and they want to focus on kids of need. And we believe this position lines up with that very clearly. Health assistance. I appreciate the work of the health department, student support and health services, of being able to build these positions into department budget. Part of this is possible because of the work we've been doing in reducing contracted services and hiring our own folks. The other reality is the services that these people provide are built into health plans of our students, and we're required to do them. So if we did not find a funding source this way, we would have to find a funding source in another manner. The multilingual education coordination, this one is a little more complicated than most. And in the current plan, we have 11 and a half of these positions, and they are sprinkled across all of our secondary schools in different variations of people, mostly very small parts of people. And so one of the conversations we had with Dr. Lilly through our multilingual department was, is there a more efficient and effective way to do this work? We challenged her with that, and she came back, stepped up to the table and said if she had 8 FTE instead of the 11 and a half, and they were working for her department and she was able to train them, that they could provide this, the 8 people could provide the service that the 11 and a half are currently providing. So that's why you see 8 here, and you'll see 3.5 FTE not funded a little later in the presentation. Multilingual education program specialists, they've been working for a couple of years to clear out funding within their department to absorb this position, and it will be absorbed within the multilingual department. Program educator for equity, the Jewel settlement is dollars that were made available to school districts that participated in a lawsuit with the vaping company. So we have dollars available over the next couple of years, and we think the program educator within equity is a good match for these funds. Program educator newcomer welcome centers, as you know, the refugee population continues to grow within the district. It's the real focus of ours. The welcome centers have been an amazing resource for our families, and we've built into the FACE department budget these 2 positions. Program specialist FACE, and then said program implementer homeless. Again, we think key positions, and the focus of both of these positions are students who are served with Title I funds, and so that's why we're proposing Title I funds for those 2 positions. A few more that we have in department type work. Project implementers for youth development, there's 3 of these positions, and these are actually positions that are associated with our alternative ed schools, and the comprehensive school support or school improvement dollars actually came at just the right time from the state. These schools have been identified, and the support of these 3 positions matches up very nicely with the CSI funding source, and that will continue funding and services for alt-ed kids. Program specialist within FACE, this one's a little bit of a interesting dynamic. This position is scheduled to be laid off. It's within FACE, but it's a focus with regards to attendance, so we are going to lay that position off. But the FACE department has been a little entrepreneurial, and they found a grant that will focus on improving attendance specifically, and we're going to hire this person back, and they're going to be a major component of making sure that grant gets carried out and we improve student attendance across the district. Regional team program techs, homeless, again, as you see, highlighting that we think the focus on our homeless students is critical, and the Jewel settlement fits within that set of services, so that's our recommendation there. Restorative practices program specialist, again, this is the department has built this into their funding, existing funding source. As you know, we've done a tremendous increase in restorative practices work across the entire district. We've actually trained Last year, we trained staff at every single school site, and we're doing another round of training at every single school site this year. And this person has helped with a great deal of that, along with some of the coaches that you'll see in the presentation later. But we're going to have to scale back some of that work because we're not in the full rollout mode anymore. We're going to be in a more maintenance mode. But this person, we believe, is critical to keeping that work moving forward. Here's a academic intervention teacher, and FY stands for foster youth. So this is, I made a nod to our homeless students a couple of times. Our foster youth is another group of kids that you look at any measure, and they need a great deal of support, more than we're currently able to do. But it is a relatively, it's a group that's actually shrinking in numbers over the past few years. And it's not that there's fewer foster youth across the state, but within the specific boundaries of Elk Grove Unified, there are fewer homes that serve foster youth students. So that number has actually decreased over the years. So we are recommending one of the academic intervention teachers continue, but you will see on the future list, there's one of them that we're not. And that was done very thoughtfully with regards to the carrying, bringing that forward. Teacher education and special assignment, also known as coaches, within the equity department. There are 8 of those positions currently. Here are 3 of those positions that the department has identified funding to be able to incorporate them into their department budget. You'll see that we have a couple of more of them that we are recommending moving forward, but there are 3 of those positions that will be on the not funded list, and that's part of the reality of not being able to do everything that we want to do, but also the idea that we have been in a ramp-up mode in the past couple of years, and moving forward, we believe that the 5 of the 8 will help us carry out the goals of the department and make sure we're still working in the right direction. And then the last one is close to my heart, and I know several board members have been connected with this as well, but our FACE department, we have a set of teachers, 2 of them. We're going to recommend one of them moving forward, but these teachers are actually working directly with teachers on Title I campuses, and they're doing parent education, and it's actually the definition of what family and community engagement is designed to be. The staff are working with the parents to make sure the parents clearly understand what the learning targets, what their students should learn this year. Also understand clearly where their child currently stands in relation to that learning. And then they also provide very clear and doable supports, games, engagement pieces that families can do with their child at home in support of those learning targets. So if you haven't had the opportunity to see this in action yet, I strongly encourage you to do so, but it's amazing work. Okay, I'm going to take 1 second here. This one's going to take a bit, so get yourself ready. Here we go. All right, so this is going through the list. So what you see here, these are positions that we have not built into department funding, but you'll see we're recommending using dollars we've squirreled away in the Learning Recovery Block Grant, Title I carryover, and a little creative, which I think is completely appropriate, is the use of expanded learning ELOP dollars for one of the positions. So we knocked this down into 3 categories, 3 tiers. Top tier are mandated services. If we didn't have these services, we didn't fund them, we would have to find a way to fund them in another way, or we'd have findings because these services are built into students' IEPs or other health plans, and we need to have those positions in place. So that's the 4 nurses, and the Learning Recovery Block Grant is our recommendation for here. We get a little creative when we move to the Tier 2, which are services that are actually occurring directly at school sites. So academic intervention teachers were near the top of the list of everybody throughout the process. We currently have 42 of those positions in place. It's 1 at every site. We're scaling that back a bit because we're trying to make this doable over the 2-year period. So our recommendation is 36 of those positions roll forward. The split will be 22 of those positions will be funded with Learning Recovery Block Grant, which would equate to half a FTE, half a person at each of the school sites. So sites could match up another person with local sites, or they could share a person between two school sites. So that's the base formula that we have in place. On top of that, we've identified 14 positions that we would use the Title I carryover dollars to, and this would allow us to do an additional half person at each of our Title I sites, acknowledging that our Title I sites have more students of need of these services. Campus supervisors, school safety was top of everybody's list. Campus supervisors at the elementary schools did not exist pre-pandemic, and they have been there for several years now, and are a key component to the safety and just the well-being of kids on campus in general. So we have 44 of those positions scheduled for next year, and as we open up another elementary school, we'll make sure that piece is in place, but 44 for right now. And we're doing an interesting split with this one. So you notice the 35.2, a very exact number with regards to Learning Recovery Block Grant, and 8.8 expanded learning. What we're proposing here is an 80-20 split of their day, their 8-hour positions, and that 80% of their time would be covering the regular school day, but that still allows them time to be able to provide support during extended school hours after traditional school. And so that's why we're proposing ELOP dollars to cover 20% of those services. The counselors, I'm going to kind of straddle two lines here, because there's a set of counselors in the elementary level, and there's a set of counselors at the secondary level. We were very thoughtful, and I appreciate staff's work in trying to get this to the right position. I do want to say just up front that this overall 23 that you see here is 4.5 fewer than we currently have in place in the Learning Recovery Block Grant. So there is a reduction to counselors overall. We currently have 15 counselors at the elementary level, and that's what we've been able to hire, and they've been allocated based on need across the district currently. Not every site has counseling services as it stands currently. I asked the elementary ed team and Ms. Avey to dive into, so what would it take to come up with what we think would be a viable service delivery model with regards to elementary counselors. Came back, if they had 18 of those positions, we could do a core distribution of 2 days of counseling services at every elementary school across the district. 2 seemed to be the minimum by which we thought that those services would be of value. If it was down to a single day, while we take any day we can get, 2 days was something they thought would be more viable moving forward. With the option for schools that have more need than that, whether based on size or based on student population, that we would be able to give those sites an additional 3rd day of service. So minimum of 2 days at every elementary school, and some of our sites would get a 3rd day based on need. So it's actually 3 more elementary counselors than we currently have in place. The high school counselors you see on the next line, we're recommending 5, and 5 is fewer than we currently have in place in these positions. We've worked with EGA, our partners, on this work for several years, and our target student to counselor ratio is 375 to 1. And that's been a target we've worked on for several years, and it's how we came to the number that we have in place in the current plan. So the 5 counselors that we have here gets us to the 375 to 1 ratio across our secondary schools. So just to reiterate, what we've done here is did an increase to elementary counselors in order to provide what we think is a viable model of providing the services. And we've adjusted the secondary counselors to hit the 375 to 1 mark. I will note that there are sites who have hired additional counselors beyond that using site funds. So those numbers are actually below the 375 to 1 number, but we did not include those positions in our calculation of the 375. So the base that we have here will meet that 375 to 1. Social workers, and they came through as very important on many levels, and they serve our secondary schools currently. We are recommending 14 of those positions moving forward. 9.5 of those would be funded with Learning Recovery Block Grant, which would mean each of our high school regions, the 9 high school regions, would each get a social worker, one full-time social worker in the region. And then there would be half of a person that would be dedicated to our alt-ed sites. Beyond that, and rounding out, is an additional 4.5 FTE, which would be additional staffing that would be in our 4 regions that are Title I, and an additional 0.5 for our alt-ed, rounding the alt-ed out to a full FTE. The Tier 3 items are items that happen at the school sites, but they're not directly in the classroom work, their support. And so the first one is our school office assistants. And these folks, we added a 3rd person to the front offices during the pandemic and kept that going post-pandemic because the sheer number of phone calls as kids were coming off of being positive for COVID, not on all the work that was going on in the front offices, we did staff up the front offices. Moving forward, our recommendations, we move back to our traditional 2 SOAs in the front offices, but we also recognize that if we roll back to 2, if you have a long-term absence of one of those folks, you really do put the front office in a tight spot. So the idea was here is to have 3 of the SOAs that are itinerant, and then the elementary ed department will, based on need, will fill in spots at school sites to, as much as possible, keep school sites from being limited to 1 person in the front office. So that's the thought process there. Site-based technology support. If you haven't noticed, we have a lot of technology in the school district and in the hands of kids and staff. We ramped up these services over the past few years as we ramped up the one-to-one process with all of our schools. That number was up to 18 was our high water mark pre-pandemic. Mr. Barber's done a lot of work in diving into some of the metrics associated with these positions, and we believe with 15 of those positions that he can distribute those services across all of our schools in a way that will still provide a high level of quality service to make sure our kids and staff have what they need to be able to engage with our technology effectively. And then the last on this list, you do see there's 2 additional teacher educators within the equity department. So there were 3 that the department was able to fold into their department funding, and we're recommending an additional 2 using Learning Recovery Block Grant. So there'll be a total of 5 of the 8 would remain in place. And you'll see on the following list where there's been some reductions. So I did speak to goods and services for continuation, again highlighting that we were able to, we're making a recommendation for the positions through June of 28, which is 2 years, but the goods and services we're recommending for a single year through June of 27. First one is the AVID site coordination. So we currently have AVID coordinators at each of the school sites. And then this is the fund that we need to continue to fund those stipends. We did a dramatic increase of AVID during the pandemic and post-pandemic, and now we have it established at our elementary school. So there was a very heavy lift to get all that work done, and we're greatly appreciative of the folks that helped get that done. But we do have a plan, I think, that is viable for keeping AVID in place and moving forward effectively. The next 2, Ed Equity and Family and Community Engagement, these are the funds that the departments had to do their core work Both of these numbers were $350,000 in previous years based on reduction in staff and some of the services we're going to be able to provide. We have rolled those back to $150,000 for ed equity and $200,000 for family and community engagement. The family and community engagement dollars will almost exclusively fund the teacher home visit project that we've been very successfully doing over several years, and this will allow us to pay teachers to continue doing that work. Social emotional learning recess support, our principals would tell you, and our staff would say that this has been phenomenal work over the past several years. This is a vendor that we use outside. It's not actually district staff doing this work. We value it, but again, we're in the mode of having to scale back. And so our recommendation is to use Title I carryover and to fund these at the Title I schools with the option that our non-title schools could build into their local LCAPs if they wanted to continue these services at the school. I can't think of anything more important than K1 reading, and so we did a deep dive into this work, and we had $1.2 million dedicated to this work over the past couple of years. We've actually spent closer to $1 million, and so our recommendation with the new reading screener that we're now implementing this year, we think we're going to identify even more students that need this support. So recommendation is to use LCAP carryover to keep that in place the next 2 years. I kept this one on the list, the special education physical curriculum assessments, and you see $0. And the reason there's $0 there is we actually have paid through a multi-year grant, through the Amen grant. This is covered through June of 27 already, so we don't need additional dollars there to cover it. But I didn't want it to fall off the list because as we get past June of 27, we're going to have to make a decision if we're going to find a way to fund this moving forward. So that's why I kept it on the list. Then the student Chromebooks. Chromebooks are a thing, and you know the work that we've been doing to roll this work out. Mr. Barber is a little itchy over there because he'd say $4 million is pretty close to maybe not enough, but we're doing a deep dive into how we roll out Chromebooks at the K first and second grade levels, and so taking a look there to see if there's the work that we can be done. The funding sources that you see here, this is for this presentation, I want to make sure that we had a worst case scenario covered. And so this covers things in the worst case scenario. I will say, I strongly believe the governor's budget in January, there's going to be additional one-time dollars available in that budget that the board ultimately could dedicate to this line. But in a worst case scenario, if there's no dollars available in the upcoming budget, there will be some remaining dollars in the Amen grant because we dedicated dollars to connectivity hotspots for students. And that need for the hotspots has reduced dramatically. So there's some savings within Amen we can use. And again, Mr. Barber will get a little itchy here, but we do have dollars within the department budget designed to it's called the Tech Utility Fund. And in a worst case scenario, using this year's tech utility dollars and next year's tech utility dollars, we could cover this cost. Those are designed to do other things too, but we're talking about in a worst case scenario, I wanted to make sure we had that covered. And I do believe there'll be other funding sources available in January. We can make some adjustments at that point. Come on. Okay, so here's where it gets a little less comfortable. So the next 2 pages have positions that we were not recommending funding moving forward. And I want to say out loud that the work that's been done by these folks over the past several years is amazing, and we are a better district, and our kids are in a better place because of the work. But the reality is we can't keep everything moving forward. I will say, just as a bit of a note, I made this presentation to the LCAP Collaborative Group last Thursday. And prior to starting the presentation, I said, okay, before we jump into this, because they didn't get a preview of it as you did, they just got it cold. I asked them to write down how many positions do you think we're going to be able to keep in place over the next 2 years, based on what you know about our funding sources. And so I asked them to write that number down. Then we did the presentation. I'm proud to say we have 173 positions built into this plan. The guesses that were shared, one was 45, one was 50, one was 75, one was 100. And I will say, someone said 175, but she said it after the presentation. I mean, that was a number. But the expectations, I think we far exceeded my expectations of what this was going to, what we were going to be able to do in the long run. And I believe we outpaced the expectations of our partners as well. So, but I don't want to, with that said, I'll go through each of these as well. So the academic intervention teachers, in the previous slides, we showed that we currently have 42 of those, and we're recommending 36 of those continue, but there are 6 of those positions that would be, that would go away. The AVID coordinator and the AVID coaches. I know this is a really important topic for many folks. AVID is an amazing program, and in our secondary schools, it's been very, very strong for years and years and years, and there's really nothing within the secondary model that's changing. We did an immense expansion of AVID into our elementary schools over the past few years, and it has bloomed. It's an amazing thing to see in our classrooms. We believe that the AVID coordinator, we used to have those duties as part of the district's head counselor position. When we went to this big expansion at the elementary level, we saw a need to dedicate additional resources to that over that short period of time because there was such a huge ramp up. As we're moving back into our normal, a more normal set of staffing allocations, we believe building in the AVID coordination into the district head counselor position is what we've done in the past, and it makes sense. We do still have the coordinators at all of the schools, which didn't exist pre-pandemic, so those resources are still there and in place. And so for the AVID coaches, same thing, done an amazing job in getting things up and running and ramped up, but we believe between the head counselor support that we will get from SCOE, Sacramento County Office of Education, who have said that they will be supportive of us in this endeavor, and the coordination at the school sites, we think we have a viable model for AVID moving forward. Counselors, here's the 4.5 counselors. We came up with a new model with regards to elementary and secondary. Elementary, 2 days per school at minimum, some will get 3. And a 375-to-1 ratio has reached at the secondary level, even with this reduction in place. Family community liaisons, very important positions, but the reality is we just could not enroll them against other positions. We made the decision not to recommend them moving forward. This is a position that traditionally schools have gotten together and had a person shared among multiple school sites through their local funding, and nothing would stop people from doing that moving forward, but we're not making a recommendation to fund those moving forward. And then what you'll see through here is just some what we think are important positions in important departments, but we couldn't keep them all going. So department leaders made decisions about some of the positions that would need to slide away. And so one of those in the FACE department is the mental health therapist. Important work, but we're going to have to assume that work within other folks still within the department. The multilingual education coordination, if you remember, Dr. Lilly said that with 8 positions, she could do that work. So this is the 3.5 that we think we can do without and still get the work done. And as a reminder, these are parts of people across many schools that are not really full-time people, but we think we have a model that will allow us to do that work. Next page, again, you'll see this program educator and program specialist within equity. Important work, but we are going to capture those responsibilities and have to rethink all the services we're going to be able to provide. So we are recommending a reduction of those 2 positions within equity. This is the second of the foster youth academic intervention teachers, so we did recommend funding one of those positions, but because it's a smaller group of students than in the past, we think one can help us do the work. The school office assistants, this is originally was 42 positions. We have 3 of them that we're recommending hiring that would be itinerant to help fill in where needed, but these would be the 13 positions that we would be removing. There's the 3 coaches, teachers on special assignment within the equity department. Same thing. We appreciate all the work that they've done, but we are recommending a reduction from 8 to 5 to be able to still make sure the work is moving forward and still a priority, but we just can't fund every position. This is the second of the teacher and special assignment, the FATATs as we come to. We may have asked for a second one of these because we do think it's really critical work. We do have a retirement in this particular, so we're going to take advantage of that opportunity, keep the other position in place, and it may be something the board will be able to grow down the road, but we didn't want to lose that service completely. The multilingual learner support here, this is not whole people. It's actually sections within master schedules in our secondary schools. We've done a great deal of work within the secondary ed department and the work with our multilingual department. We believe that there is funding within and staffing available within existing master schedules that with the reprioritization, these services can still be done without funding them through this process. And the last one, near and dear to my heart, as a former principal for many years, the vice principals are key to being able to run an effective, safe school. But the elementary ed department has done a really phenomenal job of absorbing these positions as we've hired vice principals into principal positions. We haven't backfilled the vice principal positions, and so we have staffing at the elementary schools currently. We're back in some cases to sharing vice principals, which is not our ideal model, but this does keep us from laying off anybody in the admin ranks and still providing services to our schools. So it's the best we could do in the current situation. Funding, can't do any of this if we're not paying attention to funding. So if you do the addition, and folks around the LCAP collaborative table, they did the addition. They came up with about $42 million over a 2-year period to keep all these positions and goods and services in place. And that's a good number. That is the number. And what you see here is $42 million worth of funding in a one-time way to be able to cover the positions. Learning Recovery Block Grant, we have been squirreling away money in this account as soon as we received it. And so whenever we didn't fill a vacancy, those dollars dropped to the bottom line. So a little more than $9 million we've been able to identify there. And then we have the educator effectiveness dollars, which we actually used to do our DEI work across the entire district. We've completely completed that work. Everyone who participated has been paid, and so we have a little over $4 million available there that we can use for Learning and Recovery Block Grant positions, which will free up dollars here. So that's how we get to the 14.1. The governor, true to his word, they originally cut a little over $10 million out of our Learning and Recovery Block Grant when the economic times were bad. As things got a little better and one-time dollars were available, they built into last year's budget a repayment of those dollars. So we got the first installment of that in the $3.4 million, again, part of what you see in the 14.1. And then the 6.8 are the 2 payments we expect next year and the following year, $3.4 million to make that whole again. Federal funds is overwhelmingly Title I carryover. More than $9 million of that is Title I carryover, and then we've shown you how we expect to use that. And then there's $500,000 in Title IV within the federal funds that we identified as well. The state allocations, it's a compilation of a number of resources. It includes using the ELOP money for the campus supervisors. It's the new grant that we're using with regards to our FACE department and attendance. It's our CSI dollars to support the positions that are all dead, and it's the LCAP carryover. So those dollars are all there in hand, and we have them. The local grants, the Jewel settlement, and the Sky River, again, thank you to the Wilton Rancheria for their support. They're allowing us to save a couple of positions, and we greatly appreciate that. And the 4.5 are the dollars that the site leaders have identified within their existing budgets to keep positions in place. In the last couple slides, this is really important as well, and we wanted to make sure that our labor partners heard us, and we want to make sure the board hears this as well. A focus on, we're in a growth district, and again, a lot of positives that go along with being a growth district, certainly much better than being in a district where you're losing enrollment. But with that comes stress on goods and services and things that we're able to do, and the work that people have to do to keep our schools up and running and working effectively. So this is a nod to our partners that we are, I say this out loud, I do not have a single dollar that I can dedicate to this at this point. But what I can say is it's a priority. We will dig into this, and it was not lost in the conversation. And this slide just kind of if someone's not on this list, please know we still care. But this was just a summary list of many of the non-traditional positions that we need to make sure we're paying attention to as we grow, needing to serve more students, and also needing to support more employees. So that's just a short list of all the things that we're thinking about and are on our minds. I will say from the LCAP collaborative group, these two slides, as much as people appreciated the work and thought that went into the recommendation around positions, I think the LCAP collaborative folks spoke to their appreciation for the recognition of this work and making sure that it was included in the presentation. They were thankful that was done. Whew. All right. So this has been a crazy long stretch to get to this point today. Mark highlighted in cabinet on Monday. We set this date on the calendar several months ago that this is when we were going to bring this work to the board, and we've met expectations. I also think through the work of listening to our I don't know, stakeholders, I'm an old guy, educational partners, I know the new language. Listening to our educational partners and looking at what folks wanted prioritized, I think this is the absolute best recommendation that we could bring forward at this time. I think it focuses on services our kids need, and I will say I do think this is a starting point for the work moving forward of this should be a definition of the service we provide to our students across the district. So just idea of where we are. So today we provided the recommendations. I look forward to listening to board member feedback and any comments that we have. We will bring this back to the board on the 18th, November 18th, based on any of the feedback we get from the board today. I will say what we're going to ask for on the 18th is to confirm that the board is supportive of the direction. The actual banging of the gavel and the approval of the positions will actually happen through the budget process, but by the board giving us direction with regards to support for the recommendation, what it really allows us to do is focus on those that are not included in the recommendation so we can start to work with them to make sure we can find soft landing places, ideally positions within the district that they will be able to move into. But there's a lot of work that the human resources team needs to do in conjunction with our labor leaders. And the earlier we start on that, the earlier people know they have a spot next year, the less stress on them, less stress on families. So we want to be able to get started with that work as soon as possible. And with that, I'm going to shut up for a while.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Yang, do we have any blue cards on this item?
Mr. Vargas, we do have a couple blue cards. Good morning. Calling Brent Liu to the podium, followed by Diane Campbell. I just got a third blue card on this item, so.
Good morning. My name is Bryn Lim, and I'm standing before you again because while I'm grateful that the recommendation includes continued funding for 5 equity coaches, I'm greatly concerned about the impact this reduction will have on the services that we are able to provide. So my colleague Robert has said that we're doing more with less. This year we have 8 attempting to support all 9 regions and alt ed, not just with restorative practices, which is what we've talked about a lot over the last couple of years, but with a variety of other site requests. Over the last 4 years, we've worked really hard to build trust and relationships with staff and administrators, planting seeds along the way. And these seeds are now germinating, growing, and in many cases bearing fruit. So what does this mean? We are fielding more requests for support from individual teachers, grade level teams, subject matter groups, and administrators. Our collaborative efforts with coaches from other departments are also increasing our workload. And this increase in equity coaching requests is a testament to the trust and relationships that we have built, as well as a shift in mindset around how the adults in our system can prioritize uplifting, joy, and working toward eliminating suffering and oppression for our students, families, and for each other as adults. We have done our best to do more with less. Dropping down to 5 coaches will dramatically decrease our ability to provide support to sites and staff beyond just restorative practice. So I urge you to consider how these recommendations will impact the work toward our district's strategic goals of not only targeted program supports, but also wellness. I also want to urge you to reconsider the recommendation of unfunding our family community liaisons in the FACE department. The support that they provide our most vulnerable families by connecting them to resources and supporting increased attendance is necessary. Optimal conditions for learning cannot be achieved when students and families in need do not have access or awareness of the supports that are available. And the family community liaisons are truly vital. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Up next, Diane Campbell, followed by Crystal Majid.
Good morning. Hello, President Vargas, school board members, Superintendent Hoffman, and cabinet, and other guests in the room, and labor leadership. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you for the hard work of the LCAP collaborative, as well as the cabinet level and each of the departments for their work on this project. It was not a fun task for any of us. It was hard work, but it was also excellent conversation. So I appreciate the collaboration with the bargaining units and cabinet in the district. So I just wanted to reiterate what Superintendent Hoffman said, is that there is a lot of thanks for the work of the district, as well as the collaborative working together. I also really appreciate being able to think outside of the box and find some one-time funding for the campus supervisors, which is an AFSCME position, but is also one of the priorities through the surveys for the safety on campus. Also, I appreciate also, once again, trying to think out of the box of how we're going to fund the school office assistants when all of the elementary schools were getting used to the idea of working with 3 front office staff, school office assistants, versus 2 in most of the cases. And then trying to assign 3 itinerant SOAs to help cover different regions when people are going to be out for different times. I'm going to be a little greedy and say we have 9 regions, 9 SOAs that are itinerant might not be a bad idea to consider. Again, and also just thinking for the mental health for our staff, our front office staff, with everything that they endure, the workload that they have, that increasing the customer service that they are providing to our families and students, and being that first interaction for the district. It might be helpful to, if there was more itinerant SOAs, then maybe there would be more chance for them to take vacations, and then but the school site would still have coverage because they are not shorthanded. Also, maybe this could possibly help with the unfunded liabilities that we have with some of our AFSCME members, as well as reduce the vacation payouts that we have annually for some of the members as well. So I just want to put that thought in everybody's mind. But again, I do really appreciate the hard work. It was not fun conversations along the way. Thank you, Superintendent Hoffman, because I was the one that said 45 for the position, so I was the low one of the group. But I'm pleasantly surprised, and again, I thank everybody for the hard work and the collaboration, and really thank Superintendent Hoffman and Cabinet for hearing me also of putting that placeholder for the growth that we're having in the district. And for maintenance and operations, I work in facilities, so I wasn't really going to push on facilities, but thank you for that. And for like CPL and all those other classes are asked me, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Calling Crystal to the podium.
Good morning, Board Chair, Superintendent Hoffman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, ATU. As leaders, we get to see rewarding. I saw Superintendent Hoffman choke up when he was speaking of the process that we had to do. And then you said baseline, and it's difficult. It's difficult. But ATU came before you as a board with concerns, and we're a willing partner, and we strive for excellence. But with the district saying transportation is the backbone and funding continues to be directed towards new roles and short-term initiatives that will be likely reduced again within 2 years, rather than strengthening the essential programs and positions that we have supported our students and community. Superintendent Hoffman said 15 things the past few years, the top 15 things. But those 15 things didn't include our bus operators, our mechanics, our attendants, schedulers. So that's why we came before you, and we've been advocating about this. So we did go to the LCAP, and we participated as willing partners. We participated, but I abstained, ATU abstained, because none of those positions had the ATU people in it. So it would be disingenuous of ATU to say who to cut and who not to cut, because these are people and these are real lives. With that being said, it feels disingenuous sometimes for ATU to be in the room with my other labor leaders, and we have to pick and choose which people to keep. You keep yours, I keep mine. That's why we came before the board. As leaders, we do have to make difficult decisions, and this is a difficult decision. But I also, as a leader, have to see that you said we're the backbone. Transportation is the backbone. Well, we shall see if we're the backbone. I don't envy any of us. I did not envy any of us in that room, because those people are people. Your people, my people. But at the end of the day, we do have to make decisions. So I appreciate the work that Superintendent Hoffman did. I really did. He took me aside and we spoke, so I appreciate that. Thank you. I also appreciate my other labor leaders and brothers and sisters in the room, because quiet as it's kept, we're being pitted against each other. With that being said, as a leader, I have to stand with my ATU sisters and brothers, and I come before you and say, we don't want you to see this through, this recommendation, without seeing the backbone, as you say, of transportation. 15 things. But did we ask those principals or those teachers or those parents about the bus drivers who pick their kids up?
Thank
you for
you.
letting me speak.
Thank you. That ends our blue card on this item.
Very well. And then we will move to board discussion. Let's start on this end with Ms. Baldwin. Any questions, comments?
Thank you for the presentation. At this time, I don't have any specific questions. The only thing I do want to acknowledge is the hard work that went into figuring out how we would come to this day and have to make some pretty hard decisions here. I just want to reiterate that this is the best ideas that the cabinet has come to us with, and I thank you and acknowledge you for doing the best you can. And it is going to be hard. There's things on here that it's painful to see that we're going to have to find another way forward. We can do it all, we just can't do it all at once. And so with that, I'd want to just express my full, just that my heart goes out to everybody that this is going to impact. I know what that's like to not have your contract renewed. It is hard on the family, it's hard. People are people, and at the end of the day, we want to do what's best to keep us moving forward as a successful district, and also making sure that we can take care of those that we can by starting early and allowing people the opportunity to see where we can find ways to absorb in other capacities or support in ways that will help them move forward for this. So thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Cabinet. And I have no questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Moore.
I would like to thank all of the individuals who have participated in giving the board feedback via public comment and emails over the last several weeks. And I do value all of the input from staff and community members, and I really appreciate that. And I know this is a difficult process, but necessary, so that we can be fiscally responsible and prioritize what we need, what is a priority for us to move forward and be successful and ultimately support our students. I do have some questions and comments. In many public comments and emails, it's been mentioned that the AVID positions that we are completely removing have, prior to having the site or the district coordinator and the two AVID coaches, how many, when we initially had implemented had our ESSER funds, how many AVID positions did we have? Because it's been mentioned that we've already cut back significantly.
Yeah, I'm not aware of other positions we've cut back significantly. There were other AVID coaches that haven't been backfilled. So I think there were 6 of them when we started, and now there's 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But those were not pre-pandemic positions. Those were part of the ESSER positions that rolled forward, and part of the rollout of AVID into the elementary schools. That was the idea of having those positions in place. The other thing that we did not have in place prior to the pandemic was the coordinator stipends for people at each of the school sites. And as you saw in the presentation, we're recommending moving those forward in the plan.
Okay, so that's what I just wanted to clarify, is that at one point we did have additional AVID coaches.
One-time funded, yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. And so are we not currently paying stipends to the site coordinators?
We are, and we want to continue that.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
We weren't doing that prior to this plan. When the ESSER plan, the stipends going to our elementary school coordinators, that didn't exist prior to the plan that we have in place.
Okay, so will that be an additional cost? I think it was $130,000.
No, that 130 covers that.
Okay. Okay, so just to clarify though, you're saying that covers that, but is that a new cost or is that an ongoing cost?
It was part of the ESSER plan, it was part of the Learning Recovery Block Grant, and it's part of the recommendation moving forward.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand that. Okay, and on page 22, I had questions emailed from a site coordinator that I think are really important to ask. So on page 22, we point out that we don't have a plan of action for AVID, but rather we are evidence gathering. And then, so the examples are, we say that we are reviewing alternative job descriptions to determine if AVID oversight can be incorporated, but what if it can't?
It has been in the past. It's been in the previous version of the position, the head counselor position, did oversee AVID at the district level. When we went to the model of expanding AVID into the elementary schools, we had an opportunity to add additional resources to help support that, because we literally trained hundreds of teachers at the elementary level to be able to do that work, and so we didn't want that to land completely on an existing position, so that's why we added the resource during this time. Moving forward, that type of ramp up won't be necessary, so we believe we can return to the pre-pandemic process in which our head counselor also supports AVID.
Okay. We also say that we are defining for leaders a scope of AVID, but shouldn't we know that before we're cutting it? We say
we've already trained those people. They have that capacity. We did in the ramp up, site administrators, site teachers, the coordinators, those folks have all been trained. That was the ramp up. And just because this plan isn't including the coaches moving forward, all the people still have that capacity. That's why in one-time situations, training people with skills that they can carry forward even after the money runs out is an effective use of the funds. So that the capacity at the elementary level has never been higher to be able to support the AVID work.
okay. So much of the feedback that I've received in emails is from site coordinators saying that they believe that we need to continue with the district support for AVID. And then we also talk about potentially outsourcing to SCOE, and in parentheses it says include costs. And that's something I asked you yesterday in our meeting. Have we explored what the costs would be? If
yes, Mr. Cerruti can speak to that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the short answer is I met previously twice with representative, the assistant superintendent, and then Ms. Paola, who has overseen and worked in the county office with AVID for, well, it goes back to when I was a principal in Florin High School. And they're very aware of the circumstances of our school and all schools with the AVID program. And if I could take just a quick step, the reason that we implemented AVID, all of this came out of COVID. And AVID at the elementary school has some features to it that we felt were going to enable us to assist kids in that transition. But the question regarding coordination, district level coordination, we will have coordination. Are we confirming exactly the person that it is? Not right now. We have a number of options that we can look at. Dr. Collier, Mr. Schweitzer, Ms. Avey, and myself, we've worked through this and looking at options, because AVID at the elementary level in particular, they refer to it as instructional strategy. I actually think it's the wrong word. Instructional strategies, whether it's direct instruction or experiential learning or thematic instruction or project-based learning. Those are instructional strategies. AVID, which is effective, they really, a lot of what they're doing is they're referring to Wicker. And so you're talking about writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. A lot of that is done by instructional coaches through curriculum and professional learning. I don't want our CPL coaches out there saying, oh my gosh, are we all doing this now? Those folks, all of our coaches meet regularly and coordinate how they're providing these services. So there is a tremendous amount of crossover, and I've worked directly with, in fact, her office was literally, when my office door was open, Ms. Hubbard was right outside, and those coaches were right outside my office, and there was direct coordination between. We're not going to lose that. There is benefits to that program. I was trained in AVID back as a teacher in 1986, and so there's good that's coming from the program, and we believe we have the resources, and we'll have the district level coordination, the site level coordination, and we'll be able to continue the work with the assistance of SCOE, direct assistance of SCOE, our last meeting, and then most recently I've connected Dr. Travis with Ms. Paola as well. So we feel very good about the transition. We also understand why folks may be concerned about it because they saw benefit to it. We'll be able to continue it.
Okay, so just to clarify, SCOE, do you know the cost associated with?
There won't be a cost from SCOE.
There won't be a cost? Okay. I think that is important to know because it does say include costs here, and if we haven't calculated that or taken that into account, then we need to do that before we cut these positions if there's going to be an additional cost there anyway. And then it was also mentioned by many individuals that we're completely cutting all of the AVID district positions, but other departments are maybe not completely affected. So just for reference, how many total employees will we have in the equity department even after these cuts?
Good morning, Ms. Moore. So if we were fully funded, we would have had 32 in the equity department. Currently, right now, we have 26, and with these recommendations going forward, there'd be 18.
18? Okay. So would it be possible for us to keep our AVID coordinator and eliminate possibly another equity position? Could those responsibilities be absorbed within the department, or are there other positions? I just think that it's worth looking at. Can we at least keep our district AVID coordinator?
Yeah, we looked at that on a very deep level. We believe the recommendation with regards to the positions we're recommending in our equity department is the right structure, and we believe the work of the AVID coordinator will be covered through another source. So this is our recommendation.
Okay. Okay, and then the last thing I'll say on this topic is that it was mentioned within the presentation that we're in maintenance mode with restorative practices, and then I believe either today or yesterday you mentioned that the same for AVID, that we're in maintenance mode, and that's why we're making these changes. But with restorative practices, we still have a coordinator, and with AVID, we're completely eliminating the district supports. So,
But we have the coordinators at each of the school sites.
But not the district coordinator.
We have coordinators at each of the sites, and we'll have district coordination as well.
Okay, but we are eliminating the title of district AVID coordinator.
That is true.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. But we're not doing so for restorative practices. I just wanted to point that out. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that it was mentioned multiple times by social workers and other individuals during public comment and emails that social workers have begun to explore billing insurance and other other sources for their services, and that could offset the costs for our social workers. That wasn't mentioned in the presentation. Is that something that we are exploring more so that we can offset these costs and fund not only our social workers, but have that alternative funding for other positions as needed in the future?
Absolutely. Anytime there's a funding source opportunity that we can take advantage of, we will. And the social worker billing is one of those opportunities. A lot to explore, a lot to see about the actual access to those funds, but they are actively engaged in that process.
Okay, well, I think that's a great thing to look into, and I appreciate the social workers who and any individuals who've been involved with looking into that, because I think that is a very positive thing. I do think overall that we are keeping more positions than I thought we would be able to keep, and I do appreciate the creativity with finding funding. I think it's clear that I am in support of trying to find a way to at least keep our AVID district coordinator, because I do think AVID is a really important program. But again, I thank everyone, all stakeholders for their input, and that's all.
Thank you. Ms. Ballerini.
Good morning. I guess 200 positions built into the plan, so I was on the other side of everything when we started this.
That was good. That was because you read the plan first.
That's right. I did read it ahead of time. You're right. But I didn't add it up. I was just guessing. I do have a couple of questions about funding sources, and maybe Ms. Watkins is the right person. I'm not sure. McKinney-Vento funds, do we still get those with the district for the homeless help? And what are we using those for at this current time? Do we know?
Lisa, without diving in, I know they're tied to positions and support services, but I don't have those off the top of my head. So I can come back to you with that information. We do still, but as far as what they're used for, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, so those are the positions that I can't name the position off the top of my head, but we have ongoing positions that are built into the McKinney, using the McKinney-Vento funding, and then during ESSER and then the Learning Recovery Block Grant, we augmented with these additional positions,
okay.
and so that's what we're recommending be the new staffing norm within the support for our homeless students. And at the pre-pandemic to today, the number of kids in our homeless program have increased dramatically. So that's why we've augmented with these positions.
That's why I wanted to make sure we were still getting those and how they were being used, et cetera. So perfect. And do we know how much the Jewel settlement was?
$1.2 million.
There we go. I thought you'd said it the other day, but I didn't write it down, so that's my fault. Okay. I really like the itinerant SOA2 idea. I think that's going to be a big help in the offices, but I do have a quick question, and Susan's going to hit me because I'm probably asking something she's got on her list, but that's okay. There used to be sort of a, if you were going to have an SOA2 out of the front office for a certain length of time, at that point, they would allow you to have a sub. I believe it's a 23-day rule. Is that still going to happen? Or if we don't have the 3 people assigned somewhere, are we going to look for some other place that may need them at that point?
No, we're not changing any of our existing policy. This is an additional 3 people to help fill in where we need to.
So if nobody needs them before that, what do we do with them?
They can help make phone calls with regards to making sure we get our UPP. No, there's lots of
attendance.
And the idea with 42, 43, 44 elementary schools, there will be room for the 3 of them to be used on a regular basis.
And I'm just going to throw this out there too. This is an idea, the itinerant SOA2s, I had thought of a couple of years back for us to use in custodial. Diane's shaking her head, yes. I think that's something that's not part of this budget plan, but I think that's something that may be a good idea to look at in the future for other departments. All right, so I'm I don't know, it's one of you two, I'm not sure which. The vice principals, since we are losing 5 FTE, if this plan goes into play, does this change the number to qualify for an additional VP at a school site?
Does not.
Does not. Okay, so we still will have enough, hopefully, to cover all that? Okay.
We're back to sharing in some cases, like we.
I know.
It's not, again, not ideal, but our regular staffing ratios are in place. And as schools get larger, they may qualify for additional VP, but that's built into the regular budget.
Perfect. All right. Let's see. Campus supervisors at the elementary schools. I think it's wonderful. I'm definitely in favor of us having them at all of the schools. I think it does show that we care about the security of all of our students. It's great. And I think it was very smart to include them in the expanded learning part of it so that we have them after school as well. We need to keep the campuses safe whenever the students are there. So that's great. I, however, would like to see, I understand currently they're being supervised, and I'll just use, that's quotes again, in elementary education. I would love to see them be moved to the safety and security department, as well as their funding moved over there, so that they, so it's more of a bigger team to work within, and it kind of shows a ladder of, you know, you can start at elementary and move up, et cetera. And it, I just think the training across the board would be better, all of those kind of things. You guys probably have a lot on your hands as elementary ed as it is. And just I just think the campus supervisors should be put into the safety and security department. That's that. Now the elementary counselors and the high school counselors, I've looked it up and I understand they have the same job description, even though anybody that's worked in an elementary school versus a high school, middle school, know they're total different jobs to do. And since we are cutting some of the high school ones, I understand there would be the option for them to go, I'm not going to say down to elementary, but to an elementary school instead. Is that, I know we had troubles finding enough elementary counselors as it was. I've seen many people coming to the dais and telling us that they don't have them at our school, all of these different things. What do you think is going to be different so that maybe we can get as many as we need in there now? Is there anything different? Are we changing anything to help get them on board?
I think the model is what we're doing differently. So before we were looking to try the idea of being able to hire 18, it's only 3 more. It's an additional, we have additional at least 2 years of funding to cover them. And the idea that people know that what the model looks like. Before we were hoping to get enough. We were shooting for 21 so we could have half of one at every school. That proved not doable at the time. So this is our next best plan. Whether it's going to work out perfectly, I can't tell you, but I do think we have a better shot at fulfilling this plan than we did previously.
Okay. And from talking to a few of those counselors, they've said that there was a matrix that was involved for deciding which schools are the most needy to get the counselors. And I would love to see that matrix at some point in time, because I just want to know, are we sending them to the most high need schools? All of those things that come into play when you decide who gets staffing at those levels. I would love to see the matrix when I'm assuming we'll probably have to make a new one since we're changing the delivery model on that. Okay. That's that. All right. I had to print it out so I could follow through with all of this. Oh, I do have a question. The goods and services, it's on page 20, but it's the level foundational reading skills support. You mentioned the reading screeners. Is this for the dyslexia and all of those screening?
Well, the screeners, that's what the screener's designed to do. But because we're doing that, we think we're going to identify more kids that this service would be helpful with.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, and I just wanted to clarify the $4 million for Chromebooks and connectivity. I know that's not enough, but we'll do what we can. And when we'd spoken before, I mentioned that there was another school district that was teaching the kids how to do repairs of the Chromebooks. And I did look it up. It is the Rockland Institute of Technology is what they're calling it, a program at the Rockland High School that repairs the Chromebooks. And it saves their district $100,000 to $200,000 a year. They do it as part of their programming there. And I think that might be something that we could look into. And I don't know if that's tech services or secondary ed or both of you together or CTE, whatever. all of those above. We'll see. All right, let's see if there's anything else. Social workers, she covered that. I believe that is it. Thank you for putting up with my questions all over the place.
Thank you very much. Mr. Yang.
Well, good morning again to everyone. Thank you, Chris, for the presentation for the second time. I wanted to say this is a full circle. I remember when we were talking back at the unprecedented crisis that we all know too well, COVID-19. And there were many conversations in the boardroom and also through virtual. And we all knew, as far as the board members and the folks that attended the board meetings, knew that we would build many positions to help our students through the crisis that we didn't know was going to hit us, because that was the reality then. And we also knew that even though there were a lot of funding coming in, there's going to hit a point where we have to reevaluate and to eliminate some positions. And unfortunately, that time has come. Seems like forever, but it is here now. And I just wanted to say that the con of it is the fact that there are people that have helped our students and other people in our school district wholeheartedly through this pandemic situation. I know that losing a job, it's very tough, and no one will know what those individuals will go through other than themselves. But I just want to acknowledge that it is difficult. On the flip side, the pros of it is the fact that we were able to use the fund that we receive to train those individuals, and those are hundreds of individuals, to have skill sets that they may not have it before. And if they already have those skill sets, it's a refreshing or addition to what they already had. So that is a pro aspect of it. And the fact that they have worked during these years in the position that they were in, that's also built a stronger profile for their resume. So I think there's a lot of positive to look into. So I am not completely bumped out hearing the position that we are eliminating because of that pro or pros that involved with that. So with that said, I just wanted to take this opportunity to encourage my board members who eventually will make the final decision in terms of recommendation. We are getting this information now, and we do have 2 weeks to do deep dive on some of these information that's provided to us, and that is to talk to superintendent and the leadership cabinets and constituents, whoever that you feel is necessary to talk to really gather the information that you feel strongly that, hey, even though the recommendation is this for removing this position, but I think otherwise. And I think this is the time that we have to really do our homework, deep dive it, even though it's only 2 weeks, but we still have 2 weeks. So I myself would do the same. But I just want to say thank you to Chris, first and foremost, for being the leader for our staff of 6,500 plus staff that serves nearly 64,000 students. It's not an easy task. And, you know, you were a little bit emotional there, and I know why, because there was so much heart and soul hustling and grinding through these years of really put people in place. And you say you're exceeding some expectation, and that's great. That's great leadership, and I want to commend you for that great job that you led this whole school district, and always been a super advisor to the board members as well. So thank you for all the hard work that you've done and the efficiency that we have saw and seen throughout this unprecedented crisis that we face. So it coming to kind of like a unfold, but it's full in some chapters. But I just want to say thank you, Chris, and everyone that been part of the team. I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Albiani.
Well, I think I feel like Sean in the fact that I was sitting in Michael's seat when we were doing this. Building these positions, it was never ignored that we were building a dream. We were given something we never expected to have. We were giving something horrific in the COVID time, but we were also giving the money to really do things that we thought would make a difference for kids in an amount that we had not even been able to fathom getting before. I can recall, I believe, 2 meetings before we shut down, them telling us what they'd like to do for summer school and sitting right here and thinking, that sounds so cool. We're never going to be able to do that. We can't afford that. And we did it for the 2 summers afterwards, and we have changed our summer school programs to this day for the better because we got that chance. So we have gotten to do restorative justice across our whole district. We have gotten to do DEI across our whole district. We have gotten to do AVID across our whole district. And that's just deposits that have pay forward. That's changing our culture. That's changing our skill sets of our teachers, as Sean said. And that investment, one-time investment, we've always known it's a one-time investment, and it's hard to spend that money. And it's easy to just save and not spend it. And we spent it on the things that we felt were the most important. And I like to acknowledge we asked our community and our staff and our people and did the things, followed what they recommended for us, and we agreed were the most important things. So our teachers learned computer skills they had never had. They had to. Some of it was, but they became just incredible teachers on computers. We went to 1-to-1, which would we have ever spent that money? I don't know. And now there's a law that requires we always keep 1-to-1, so we're ready for an emergency. So people who might question, why are we still spending money to keep Chromebooks for every kid? It is a requirement, so we're ready to turn in an emergency and not have a gap in education. Those were all things that came out of it that I think are positives and made us better. I went to all my schools
prior to having to come to this meeting because I needed to know what in my region they felt was the most important thing. And and I really pushed people to give me their top 3. And I'm smiling at people in this room as well that I did the same thing too. And I pulled a lot of strings with friendships and old relationships. And I feel we hit the mark. It's really exciting. The top things that people shared with me, they needed, we are going to be able to continue. And I'm just thrilled for that. Nurses, health assistants, counselors, campus supervisors, they've made a huge difference in our school campuses. And they also are wide. We're supporting the people that need support. And by supporting those students, I believe we're supporting our teachers, because if we put less on our teachers' plates if we can have the help and the aids to teach these students to self-regulate, to take care of themselves. They're ready to learn. So that's very exciting to me. I'm very excited we've been able to save as much as we have in the FACE department. That's been, in my tenure, we've started the FACE department, we've grown the FACE department, we've seen the changes there. If you've been to an FTAT and watched a principal carry around someone else's child for 30 minutes so they can sit down and concentrate on the child that's there, it's heartwarming. It's exactly what we want. It is building a community of support for everybody. There are translators there. They are going home with everything they need to help their kids succeed. They're just huge wins. So, and that's not just one piece of what FACE does. Home visits, oh my gosh, go to a home visit, get trained as a home visit person. These are things that make a difference, and we've built them, and I'm so excited we're going to be able to keep them. I agree with Ms. Moore. I hope we continue to look into if we can find social workers or a way to help keep them and grow them through some funding, additional funding. And I think I hear the concerns of AVID. I really believe AVID is a way and fits so well into our high quality instruction. And we are so strong in our high quality instruction. And I believe our professional development will continue to teach that complete picture. I really feel that's there. And having someone on site that's your expert is amazing. I'm very excited about the continuation of AITs and the continued training they're getting and what they're bringing back to their school sites. It's just an amazing thing to share. I would love an AIT at every school, if not 2. I would love, you would love all this stuff to happen. But we've known from the beginning we were in the dream. And so a number of people have written to me, and I just wrote them back that we will continue to evaluate and build on the things that are working. And some of them had to take a bigger cut than we would like, but I'll be honest, we kept more than I thought we could. We really did a good job. And I love that we went out of the box to find ways to keep things. I love that people felt comfortable enough to tell us what was really important and that we respected that. So thank you very much for all the hard work. We've been doing this, and we can look at this paper and it talks about April 2024, but we started looking at what was working and what was happening from the day we started hiring them. We've never taken our eye off the ball. We have to figure out what's the best and what we need to save. And I think we became laser focused. I love the LCAP collaborative. I feel like it's a great place for people to put their input. And the systems we've developed and the growth we've had over this year, I just thank the people that have been part of it. You are invaluable. And even if your job does not continue, I think you should take immense pride in what you've done to help our district and our community through a horrible time. And we appreciate you.
Thank you. Ms. Davis.
Well, I do want to tell everyone I appreciate all the hard work, just knowing and watching how you pull from different budgets, different places. It's hard to do. And you went so far out of the box and were able to help us keep as many people as possible. I think one thing that we need to keep in mind up here that all these positions were covered by ESSER funds originally, and they're not interchangeable with people who are funded in other budgets. It'd be easier if we could just change and move them around, but we have to stay within that these were ESSER funds that are ending. I agree with Jennifer that campus supervisors should be under safety and security. I think that's where they should be. so they could be a part of that. She already touched on the 23-day rule. I hope that we would keep in mind of looking at that, because that really is a hardship on the school sites when someone has to be gone 3 weeks before you can get a substitute in that office. So I think the 3 itinerant ones are great, but they need to be usable. The Chromebooks on page 20, what we need to budget for that, I think we should look at what we could charge for intentional damage. I think most people would be surprised at how many come into the school sites damaged. It fell off a car, it got ran over, we dropped it. We charge for textbooks. I don't understand why we're not charging for Chromebooks in the same manner. I've seen several families that go through 3 and 4 per child in their house just because they're not that important to them to keep them working. But I think that might be a way we could recover some of those extra funds that Todd says we're short on. Other than that, I think we've done a great job here. When I was told we were going to start this process, gave me a sick feeling in my stomach. I remembered the last time this district had to do huge layoffs and did not want to do that. And this is much more bearable, I think, in the fact that some can be absorbed back into our workforce, maybe in different roles, that the actual layoff numbers will be less than what we're seeing right here. So I really appreciate, Chris, your hard work, Cabinet's hard work. Working in the budgets, I know how difficult this was, so thank you.
Thank you very much. And then I want to echo what many of my colleagues have said in appreciating the incredible amount of work that went into this. Obviously, I don't think I can even imagine, having spent the past 4 days, digging through everything that you all have provided for us, the amount of work that went into creating all of that and talking to our community members and our educational partners and thinking through these positions. It cannot be an easy task, and I want to recognize how much effort and time that took. And especially in getting to a place where we are keeping a lot of really important positions no longer tied to one-time dollars, or no longer tied to these one-time dollars, right? Finding places in existing district budgets, going out and finding grants, finding other ways to support these positions. And what I think is really incredible, and one thing that I really appreciate, is how many of those positions in that early part of the presentation were positions specific to support some of our most in-need students. The fact that we put that level of effort into supporting those students is incredible. And I don't want that to go unremarked upon. I have, and I also, along with that, I think that is a testament to how valuable it has been, to have the FACE department and the equity department and see the growth in those departments. And even though obviously there has been we blew up those departments and now there's some drawback naturally, but I think over the long term, I'm excited to see those departments continue to grow and thrive. So in terms of just my thoughts on, I think I wasn't terribly surprised with anything. Like some of my colleagues, when I was visiting campuses, I specifically asked, what are your thoughts? Do you have priorities? What are the things that are valuable to you? What are the positions that you found most valuable? And I think, across the board, it's the positions that we are recommending are the ones that were there. The one variation that I noted was that vice principals were a high priority, particularly for their principals. No surprise there. Obviously, we're not in a bad position there because we didn't backfill, but I think that doesn't mean the need goes away. So one thing that I would love to see, it may not happen in this process, but I think that is something we need to keep an eye on and remember in the future as we start to think about, the next time we get one-time dollars, as our budget continues to grow, because we are a growing district, I think that need is not going to go away. And there's a lot of other, obviously, there's a lot of other things, and I'll talk about that in a second, where we have need, and it would be great to have things, but we should be keeping that list in our head, because there is going to be a point. Now is a time where we are shrinking a little bit to make everything fit in our budget, but as a growing district, there is going to be a point again where we have some money and we need to think about what to do with it, and I think we need to keep these positions in mind. The other one that jumped out to me was the AVID positions. Obviously, I think these are incredibly important. The amount of work that has gone into growing those positions over the past few years has been absolutely incredible. And I think that I appreciate what Mr. Cerruti was saying around the fact that we will make sure that we have some coordination, for these positions. I don't know that you fully convinced me that there isn't necessarily a value to having one person who will do that, like a person where that is their dedicated value. And I would suggest, since you are asking for our feedback, I think if we can find some place for one person, some money for one person, I think there would be a value to that. I don't want to try. One of the challenges of being up here is that we tend to see things in terms of FTE and not in terms of people or the needs of your departments. And so I don't want to suggest to you where that's going to come from, merely saying that I think it would be helpful, and leaving it. I trust your judgment in the recommendations coming forward. And if that's not something that we can do, I understand. And it's part of, I think that goes to that, the next thing I want to say is that recognizing that we are a growing district, that means we have growing needs, and that's not just these positions. I think that as we move forward, it's going to be important to pay attention to the areas where we are pulling back. So our office assistants, vice principals, our FTAT, coordination, our family community liaisons, AVID, all of those, we need to pay attention to where we are pulling back and what impact is that pullback having. If we see that we are able to cover all of these things, if we don't see a decline in AVID because we lost the coordinators and the coaches, then that's one thing, right? That's great. But if we start to see backsliding in any of these areas, I think it's important that we then reevaluate and think about how we can adjust these priorities in the future. And as we get more funding, I hope we will consider areas where we can continue, when we can build these back up. But I don't want us to forget also that we have growing needs outside of these positions. Our labor partners, come up and remind us of that regularly. And I think that that's valuable because, we do have, our maintenance and ground staff, transportation, library techs, all of these are positions where people have come up and said, hey, please don't forget. So as we are moving forward in this process, as we are moving past this, I don't want this conversation around either these positions or our growing needs in other areas to move to the rearview mirror. We are pushing those conversations forward 2 years or a year or however long, but we need to continue to have those conversations every time. And so the last thing I wanted to say is I hope that in this process, as we move forward with this process, and as we implement these recommendations, I hope that as we pull back an FTE, that doesn't necessarily mean that we are losing those people. I think to the extent we can keep those people in some capacity
I think one of the things that makes us a great district is that we value people. And so as we are losing FTE, I hope we will keep the people in some way, shape, or form that we can. Or if they have a specialized skill or whatever, we're doing everything we can to help them find a position and land in a good place for them. So that's it for me.
Mr. Superintendent, do we have anything else on the recommendations? Is there any specific feedback you'd like, or?
And I took notes. I'm in a good place. I appreciate it very much.
Okay, sweet. All right, next up we have our consent agenda. Mr. Yang, are there any blue cards on the consent agenda?
There is one blue card in this item.
Please.
Calling Kim Hootman. Yes. Come on up.
Intervention teacher Adelaide Donner. Thank you all for the hard work that you have put into today. I know the decisions have been difficult. I know the priorities are all important. I just appreciate the opportunity to come and speak on behalf of my students. As an academic intervention teacher, I can't overstate the value of what we are able to provide not only to our students directly, but to the school at large. I've been a teacher for almost 30 years. I've been in the district for over 20, taught in general education and in special education, and in each position, I thought something is missing in our tiered system of support, and that tier is academic intervention. We have been hired to provide high-quality, research-based instruction to our most vulnerable, needy students, and we are doing that with great success. We see small groups of students throughout the day, upwards of 50, every single day. The connections that we make with these children, with their families, with the teachers in our classrooms are invaluable to their success. Not only are they growing academically, but the bonds that we are able to build in these small groups sometimes create an environment in my classroom where it may be the only really safe place where these kids can feel successful for a portion of their day, because we are able to give them that instruction right at the level that they need it. We are able to work with our classroom teachers every day in helping to develop supports for those students within the general setting. Teachers come to us throughout the day to say, hey, you know, so-and-so is really having a hard day. Can he come and sit in your second grade group and participate for a little while because he's really blowing out in the classroom? And we do that. You know, SEL has become, rightfully so, a focus of our district, thank goodness, because the needs of our kids, of our families are increasing every year. And while we are hired primarily, and our focus is primarily academic growth of our students, we also are serving that SEL piece every single day, not only for the students, but for their families. We get to know those kids on such a deep level that we can sit in the student study team meetings when a student is being referred, possibly for special education, and give really invaluable information that helps the team to determine what is the appropriate next step. We are able to prevent many children from ever needing to be referred for special education. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you going forward with funding at whatever level you can do that for AITs in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That ends a blue card on this item.
Thank you very much. Would any board members like to pull an item from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, then I will entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 4 on the consent agenda.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Yang.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Albiani. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. With that, we will take a lunch break, and the board will meet in closed session to address items 1 and 2 on the closed session portion of the agenda. Mr. Yang or Mr. Superintendent, are there any blue cards on this item? Okay. Then I will close public comment, and we will recess into closed session at 11:06 a.m. right, I'd like to call us back to order at 11:44 a.m. And announce that the board met in closed session and no action was taken. I'll adjourn this meeting at 11:44.